Hi there, and welcome to Prices at the Pumps, a brand new episode for this week. Scott Squires, along with the energy expert Dan McTeague. And Dan, right now, with my 5 cents off a liter that I get at the Irving, where I get my gas for using debit, I'm paying just a little over 167 a liter, and it's kind of been dropping the last few weeks. So, what's coming up for the Atlantic region tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday in terms of what we're going to be paying at the pumps? Let's start off with Newfoundland, Dan, and then we'll go to the rest of the region.
Well, if you can wait until tomorrow, Newfoundland's going to see a net decrease of 4 cents a liter. That's right. So what they're paying today will be down 4 cents a liter. If I'm looking at a 60-liter fill up, that's $2.50 in my pocket. That pays for a couple of McDoubles, if you will. At the same time, if you look at diesel and home heating fuel, that's going to be heading up, going down rather, I should say, 1.8 cents a liter. Could be even 2 cents a liter to round it off. But I think at this point, we don't want to push our luck. Diesel tends to start to rise in mid-September. Gasoline really starts to fall mid-September. And we really need to talk about that here with prices at the pumps and yourself, Scott, because if you don't like the prices today, you may want to wait a few more weeks. Markets are really nervous that there is a global recession, and they're extraordinarily defying the fundamentals. The supply and demand picture looks like they're completely ignoring it, focusing now on their latest excuse, China. China's demand is down, therefore the world should be in complete recession.
So overall, Dan, in the Atlantic region, we may want to hold off till tomorrow, Thursday in Newfoundland, or Friday for the rest of the region. So
yeah, I would think it's
a bit of a downward trend.
4.2 cents, maybe the drop we see in New Brunswick, PEI, and Nova Scotia, and we may actually see a similar decrease of about 2 cents a liter on the diesel side. So it will get better for Friday, only because there's an extra trading day. And I'm looking at the trades today. Oil's down about 30 cents a barrel. And of course, gasoline is down about a penny. So that means we could be saving a little bit of money over 7 days, which is averaged. And it's for that reason that my best advice to everybody, and I think it's said right here first, we should be holding off before filling up Thursday and Friday, depending on the community. Now, of course, we know that Newfoundland are going to be going to Friday as well. So all 4 provinces will have gasoline on that day changed. So we'll be starting to do this in unison, and there won't be that sort of one-day differential, which can sometimes make a bit of a difference between how provinces regulated gas prices treat their pricing.
Oh, Dan, breaking a little news here. So do you know when Newfoundland will revert to the Friday adjustment rather than Thursday?
I was looking at the beginning of September. It may be a little later than that. I'll have to check, but it looks like at the end of this month, which is coming up very quickly. This may be the last week we do this on Thursday. May start to switch over to Friday, so that we have all 4 Atlantic provinces, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI, all changing their prices at the same time and on the same day, using pretty much the same market indication. It'll make it a lot easier for me as well, because I'll be able to predict in one fell swoop what the prices are, even though they tend to choose different methodologies and they have different formulas. In the case of Prince Edward Island, they just look at what's called the rack price, the wholesale price for gasoline. It's usually a reflection of what's happening in the rest of the country. So hopefully it'll be a lot easier for both you and I, Scott, going forward, getting this right at prices at the pumps.
Appreciate you letting us know that, Dan. Now, it's hard to believe, but we are getting close to back to school, and that means fall is in the air. What can you tell us about where you think prices are headed into the fall, Dan?
Well, one would have thought this week would have seen prices move up a little bit. We had an indication of that on Friday, when oil gained almost $3 a barrel, and it gained another $2 a barrel on Monday. But then it collapsed, it turtled. Markets got really nervous again. So I would think that the same weird, dysfunctional approach by market traders is going to continue well into September. But we have the added benefit in 2 weeks, maybe just a little over that. Around September 15th, all gasoline in Canada can switch back to cheaper to make, cheaper to buy winter blends of gasoline, which will stay with us right up until about the 15th of April. That you'll recall one of our episodes recently, Scott, where we went up about 13, 14 cents a liter. Well, we actually might drop about 8 cents a liter come that second or third week of September. I know I'm a little far off, maybe 4 weeks ahead of myself, but I don't see a scenario, unless there's a geopolitical crisis that erupts overnight, that would see prices going up. If anything, I think they're going to remain here, maybe go a little lower, a few more pennies before we finally get that big decrease around the middle of September, which could mean a one fell swoop in decrease of about 10 cents a liter.
And I know, Dan, a lot of folks this time of year, again, you don't want to wish your time away, but in this region, the temperatures can switch almost at the blink of an eye. So people are thinking about home heating, right? Still, there's a lot of people still heat their homes with oil. Do you see in your tea leaves where home heating oil, might be headed, at least in the short term, when people start filling up their tanks again, into late September, into October?
Inventories for oil are very low. Diesel, not bad. But if you look at, the proxy for diesel is, as you said, heating oil, which we're going to start to use as temperatures get a little colder. We also tend to use it for jet fuel. And we know that economic activity on the airline front has been picked up a little bit around globally. I think the best guess is that we could see a reversal of fortunes. So gasoline drops 10, diesel moves up 10 cents a liter. So they tend to switch. Now's the time if you need to fill that tank to do it, because it's not going to get cheaper come October, November. And of course, it's not going to get a lot cheaper come next April when the federal government adds yet another 4 cents a liter to the carbon tax. And we're probably going to see an increase of about 2.5 cents a liter on the clean fuel standard, which is the second carbon tax imposed by the federal government. So unless people like high prices to keep warm, maybe it's best that they avoid the higher cost of what I think will be diesel and home heating fuel towards the middle to end of September.
And Dan, there's some things I want to ask you about in terms of what's trending domestically, but also worldwide with oil, what OPEC is doing, things like that. But I got to ask you this, because it jumped out at me the other day. We know about the push from our federal government to green and electrify everything. And, we understand why that needs to be done in certain cases. But you've talked about, kind of using a tempered or a metered approach. But reporting coming out that Canada is going to follow the lead of the US and slap 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. Now, I ask you this question. I'm going to pretend that you were my member of parliament back when you were an MP and I'm a constituent. Mr. McTeague, if your government wants me to drive an electric vehicle, don't they want me to have the most affordable one that's out there? And if the most affordable one is going to be a Chinese-made vehicle, Mr. McTeague, why is your government forcing me to pay twice as much as the sticker price with a tariff? Why are you doing that to me?
Yeah, well, I'm not a member of this government. I would never be a member of this government. I'd be pleased to say I would have crossed the floor a long time ago had I been a member of that government. So probably good for them and good for me and good for my constituents. I would say that you made a bad error. You didn't take this into consideration. The Chinese have a 15-year technological advantage and a labor advantage that we just simply don't have. So trying to replicate what they did in such a short period of time, inducing companies to invest $19 billion in order for you to be able to spend $52 billion in public money is a waste of time and is a waste of money. It's obviously a question of bureaucrats not looking before they leapt. In the case of our rush to go headlong towards EVs, we now have a lot of Canadians saying we can't afford them, we don't want them, and automotive companies saying it doesn't matter what the grift is. Companies like Ford, privately held companies that are not going to go for government bailouts like GM or Stellantis or others and have a history of doing so. They're saying, to hell with you guys. We know where the market is. The market is not EVs. The market is internal combustion engines. That's why I live not far from Oakville here, the Oakville Ford plant. And you and I talked about this a little while ago. They said no to EVs. Take your grift, take your money, province of Ontario, take your money, federal government. We're going to continue to build what people want. They want F-250s. They do not want useless EVs that don't work very well in cold weather and cost a hell of a lot without those subsidies.
And I should say that was a complete hypothetical when I was referring to you as my member of parliament and the government. Strictly hypothetical, Dan. We know where you stand. Yeah. But yeah, that to me, I'm sorry. I don't profess to know the inner workings of government, but to me, if I'm being told that I should really switch and get myself an electric vehicle for the sake of the planet and the country and in the environment, but then I'm being told that, well, I could buy a vehicle that's $20,000, which is kind of in my range, but no, now you're going to pay $40,000 or more because of our tariffs.
Yeah.
Again, just my opinion, doesn't make sense. I'm sure we'll talk about that more.
Well, the blowback will be pretty big, Scott. I mean, I think China's not going to sit on its laurels. It's going to say this is a protectionist move, which it is. Canada had a choice: choose the American way, choose the Chinese way. We entered in this whole EV craze when the Biden administration foolishly spent trillions of dollars on the Inflation Reduction Act, which meant billions of dollars given out in grift to major automotive companies. Look, the automotive sector will die a slow death if it continues down this road of building things that people don't want to drive. And you can force them, you can mandate them, but that whoever's doing the forcing is going to quickly find out, at least in the next federal election, that they're going to be forced out of office. And they can leave with their Liberal friends and their NDP and their Green friends and pack their bags and go. Because there's only about 43% of people out there who are crazy enough to think that money grows off trees and that reality doesn't matter when it comes to policy making. They're going to get a rude awakening. That's coming in the next 12 to 13 months, guaranteed, in my many years' experience with the Liberal Party. And I want to point this out. I served the Liberal Party from 1974 right until 2013, 2014, when Trudeau came in. So that's almost 40 years of my life with that party. That's not the same Liberal Party. It's not pragmatic. It isn't looking out for the interests of Canadians. It's put us in a real deep financial hole, and it's probably created divisions in this country, the likes of which will be many generations before we can repair.
Well, Dan, that's why I'm glad to have you here, because when something doesn't make sense to me and I want to talk about it, I can toss it right over to you and you'll help me wade through all of the fogginess of it all. Now, I mentioned, getting to you about some of the things that are happening domestically and certainly worldwide with the price of oil and geopolitical tensions and, what OPEC is doing. What are you seeing right now on world markets with the price of a barrel of oil and what OPEC is doing and what we as consumers may see in the weeks and months in terms of what oil is doing on international markets and what it's going to mean to us Canadians as consumers?
Well, I think we can read about these things, that's what's happening in the world in terms of demand increasing and decreasing, parts of the world where, Exxon came out with its study, which I thought was interesting, saying, yes, renewables will increase, but they will not be enough to displace the global lead population to 2050. We're going to add another 2 billion to our world population. And that means that fossil fuels have nowhere to go but up in terms of consumption. I think it's also important to recognize that what we're seeing here in terms of the energy markets is really the result of the bond yields and what's happening in the United States with respects to where people are really putting their money. They're looking at putting money behind U.S. government bonds as opposed to putting money into the energy sector and other types of trades in commodities. And that's creating a bit of a problem because it's leading inevitably to what I think many people have recognized for some time, including myself, in that years of diversion and divesting from energy and from other forms of needed energy is going to lead to much higher prices and dislocation down the road. So however this turns out, it's not going to be a good news story in the long term. I think we're going to wind up paying a lot more simply because we've ignorantly assumed that energy is simply going to disappear. It's only going to come from natural gas, or it's going to come from solar, or it's going to come from wind or hydrogen. I think those are all wonderful things. They're fanciful. There's a place for them, but it's very much the minority. The bulk of energy that we are going to use globally through electrification, through other forms of energy creation, production, and use will be done, granted, through fossil fuels, like it or not. That's the reality. And some people want to argue against that. That's fine. But I still believe the sun, the sun comes up in the east and settles in the west, and you can't change that.
And a quick question about EVs, and I know you and I have talked about EVs and internal combustion engines and hybrids. Why, and I'm asking again, I'm just asking your opinion, is something that I look at and I wonder why. Why hasn't there been more of an embracing of the hybrid vehicle rather than the straight up EV? And I'll tell you, when I was on vacation a few weeks ago in St. John's, Newfoundland, my nephew rented a vehicle and it was a hybrid. And it ran on gas, it ran on electricity. It seemed to be a pretty cool combination. Again, in your opinion, Dan, with what you're seeing, why hasn't there been more of a push towards hybrids rather than straight up going EVs?
Many years ago, Scott, I worked public relations. Before that, I worked media and then customer relations for a little company called Toyota Canada. And I was amazed at the level of ignorance of people calling in. They don't understand vehicles. The hype around EVs has left a lot of people very disappointed. I drive, in our family, we have two hybrids, a 2008 Ford Escape, ugly looking green thing, but it still works, 200 41,000 kilometers on it. And I think my wife's driving a 2021 Ford Explorer hybrid. Both of them save a lot of money in terms of gasoline, are more reliable, but they don't get a subsidy. And I think that's what it comes down to. People love to grift. They want to get something for free. They want to be given something. The problem is that what they're getting today, their children are going to have to pay for in 10 to 15 years from now, or their grandchildren in 30 years from now. People are acting very irrationally and very irresponsibly. And if anybody thinks EVs are the way to the future, automotive companies, that is advanced ones, have said no. Toyota, Ford, Mercedes, cars companies are starting to come down to. People love to grift. They want to get something for free. They want to be given something. The problem is that what they're getting today, their children are going to have to pay for in 10 to 15 years from now, or their grandchildren in 30 years from now. People are acting very irrationally and very irresponsibly. And if anybody thinks EVs are the way to the future, automotive companies, that is advanced ones, have said no. Toyota, Ford, Mercedes, cars companies are starting to come down to. People love to grift. They want to get something for free. They want to be given something. What they're getting today, their children are going to have to pay for in 10 to 15 years from now, or their grandchildren in 30 years from now. People are acting very irrationally and very irresponsibly. And if anybody thinks EVs are the way to the future, automotive companies, that is advanced ones, have said no. Toyota, Ford, Mercedes, cars companies are starting to come down to. People love to grift. They want to get something for free. They want to be given something. The problem is that what they're getting today, their children are going to have to pay for in 10 to 15 years from now, or their grandchildren in 30 years from now. People are acting very irrationally and very irresponsibly. And if anybody thinks EVs are the way to the future, automotive companies, that is 15 minutes without their boss.
That just shows that we're doing this live as we record this, live to tape, as we say. A very cool moment. Well, listen, Dan, always great to see you, sir. Thanks for your insights as always. Have a great weekend ahead, a long Labor Day weekend, and we'll do this again next week.
Enjoy the long weekend, Scott. Looking forward to doing this again next week with Prices at the Pumps.
Sounds good. Take care, Dan. Bye-bye.
Yeah.